My name is Mary Lynn Oertel, and this presentation is about Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo y Calderón, a Mexican-German artist who lived during the Mexican Revolution. To the left is Frida's mother, Matilde Calderón, July 5, 1874 to September 15, 1932. Matilde Calderón was born of half Spanish, half indigenous parents. The oldest of 12 children, Matilde's father was Antonio Calderón, of Indian descent, who was a photographer. Matilde's mother was Isabel González y González, whose father was a Spanish general. Though not well educated, Matilde was pious. Carl Wilhelm Kahlo, to the right, her father, was born October 26, 1871 and died April 14, 1941. He was born a German Lutheran in Pforzheim, Germany. When young, he fell, had brain injuries, and became an epileptic. Disliking his new stepmother at age 19 in 1891, he left Germany for Mexico City. In 1894, he wed a Mexican woman, Maria Cardena, who died giving birth to their second daughter. He fell in love with Matilde, Frida's mother, as they worked together at La Perla, a jewelry store. So they wed. His daughters with Maria were sent off to convent schools. Matilde's father persuaded Guillermo to become a photographer. Becoming successful, Guillermo was commissioned by the Mexican government to photograph Mexico's cultural heritage. Frida's mother was a devout Catholic. Guillermo was atheist. Matilde took Frida and her sisters regularly to San Juan Bautista Church for daily Mass. Although Frida became a communist, she incorporated the motifs of the Catholic retablos into her paintings. Matilde circled, lower left-hand corner, the first child. San Juan Bautista was where Frida worshipped, in Mexico City suburb of Coyoacan. The church was built on the site of a school for Aztec nobles. Frida would have been aware of Catholic art around her. Here is the Virgin of Guadalupe. These are baby pictures of Frida as she was growing up in Mexico. Frida's first communion photo is on the left. On the back she wrote idiota, meaning idiot. Later in life, Frida dressed in indigenous Tijuana costumes for Mexicanidad, being Mexican, and to please her husband, Diego. Her mother's family came from Tijuana, Oaxaca, in Mexico. And that is Frida to the right, in the typical indigenous dress. In this photo, Frida is to the left, standing in a suit. Her aunt, her sister Adriana, are in the back row also. In the middle row is Adriana's husband, Alberto Barraza, her uncle, her mother, her cousin Carmen. The front row has Carlos Barraza, Frida's nephew, and Cristina Kahlo, Frida's younger sister. Frida's sister are Matilde Kahlo Hernandez, 1899 to 1951. Adriana Kahlo Barraza, 1903 to 1968. Frida is at the far right, 1907 to 1954, and Cristina Kahlo Pinedo from 1908 to 1964. Matilde is in the upper left-hand corner, Frida is to the far right, Cristina to the lower left, and Adriana is in the center. This is Frida in the middle with two of her sisters. This is a photo of Frida's prosthetic leg with a decorated boot. This is housed at the Diego and Frida Kahlo Museum. At age 6, Frida contracted polio. Her right foot became crippled. She was taunted with the name Peg-Leg Frida. She concealed her deformity with pants and long skirts. Guillermo had gender-free expectations. Frida was his favorite. He taught her to pose before the camera. Her paintings became chronicles of her entire life. She knew the power of a carefully constructed self-image. In September 1925, Frida was impaled by a metal handrail in a collision between her bus and a streetcar. Her sweetheart, Alejandro Gomez Arias, was with her. A passenger's bag of gold dust was thrown upon Frida. All her clothes were torn off. She sustained a broken spinal column, a broken collarbone, ribs and pelvis, 11 fractures in her right leg, a crushed foot, a dislocated shoulder, and a pierced uterus. Forced to wear plaster and steel corsets, Frida transcended pain into art by painting symbols on them. After her stay in the Red Cross Hospital, several weeks, she returned home. The following year, she finished her first self-portrait. Her parents bought all the necessary art supplies and encouraged her talents. They made a special easel so she could paint in as much comfort as possible. And in this picture, she is depicted painting on a corset. Alejandro Gomez Arias was Frida's sweetheart, for whom she painted her first self-portrait. Frida and Alejandro met at the National Preparatory School in 1922, where Frida aspired to begin a pre-medical program. They were inseparable for 3 years. This portrait was done in 1926. Alejandro is credited for saving Frida's life in the bus collision. Guillermo and Matilde had this retablo painted, dedicated to Our Lady of Sorrows, for Frida after her accident in 1925. These are depictions of Our Lady of Sorrows. Frida would have been familiar with this art. This is Frida and Diego Rivera. Diego, her husband, was of Spanish Indian and Portuguese Jewish descent from conversos in Spain. Diego stated his Jewishness was a large part of his life and art. A card-carrying communist, Diego flaunted his political views loudly. Frida later joined the party. Frida first met Diego Rivera 20 years her senior while he was painting a mural at her school's auditorium. Diego and Frida reconnected in 1928 when he evaluated her art and encouraged her to paint. They married in 1929. Frida's mother called the couple the Dove and the Elephant. Wishing to honor their traditions, Frida and Diego collected over 1,000 ex voto paintings. These works honor God, saints of the Virgin, by depicting accidents, tragedies, or illness, and the miraculous divine interventions. These are retablos at Casa Azul, Frida's home, and Frida used this type of art. In 1937, Leon Trotsky and his wife Natalia, under police escort, moved in with Frida and Diego to Casa Azul. Frida is shown here with an escort of armed guards with the Trotskys. Kicked out of Russia, Trotsky sought political asylum in Mexico. Lev Davidovich Bronstein, also known as Leon Trotsky, was the founder of the Red Army in Russia. He was a Jewish revolutionist who was exiled from Russia by Stalin. Leon and his wife were kicked from country to country until Diego welcomed them to Mexico. These are a few Trotsky quotes. These quotes would have influenced Frida's life and her art and her way of looking at the world. You may not be interested in strategy, but strategy is interested in you. The end may justify the means as long as there is something that justifies the end. There are no absolute rules of conduct, either in peace and war. Everything depends on circumstances. Insurrection is an art, and like all arts, has its own laws. Ideas that enter the mind under fire remain there securely and forever. Learning carries within itself certain dangers, because out of necessity one has to learn from our enemies. This is Frida in one of her decorated corsets. This corset has a communist hammer and sickle. This is a photo of Frida and Diego demonstrating for the Communist Party. Frida became a devotee of Joseph Stalin. Plutarco Calles was the president of Mexico from 1924 to 1934. He is on the left. He cut Diego's art funding, repressed the Catholic Church and the communists. Born illegitimate from a dysfunctional family, Calles was an avowed atheist. On the right is a photo of Blessed Miguel Pro, one of the martyrs of the Cristero Rebellion War. This is a photo of women in rifle practice during the Mexican Revolution of 1911. Frida would have been 4 years old at the time. On the left is British author Greene, who visited Mexico in 1938. The Power and the Glory, his novel based on his eyewitness accounts, portrays a renegade priest in the jaws of Calles' violent persecution of Catholics. Greene called the Cristero Rebellion the fiercest persecution of the Catholic Church anywhere since the reign of Elizabeth. At the right is Blessed Miguel Pro, kneeling in prayer before a firing squad. Political figures and photographers were invited to his execution. After Diego's rejection by Nelson Rockefeller, this photo was taken at the Menorah Artists and Writers Committee dinner in New York. Diego expressed outrage that Rockefeller had banned his mural framing for Rockefeller Center because of his depiction of Vladimir Lenin, a communist. The Riveras lived in the United States between 1930 and 1934. Diego's intent in coming to the U.S. was to flee Calles' persecution and to market his art. This is a picture of Frida and Chavelo Vargas, Frida's friend and singer of ranchero music. Another friend of Frida's was Georgia O'Keeffe, American artist. She met Frida in the 1930s. They had much in common, both being female artists. Frida also met Josephine Baker, the performer, in a Paris nightclub when Baker was performing and Frida was exhibiting. Isamu Noguchi, a Japanese-American sculptor, became Frida's lover in the mid-30s after Noguchi came to work in Mexico on a mural. Their feelings were intense. The affair ended due to Diego's discovery. He threatened Noguchi and broke up the affair. Nicholas Murray was a Hungarian-born photographer, and he also fell in love with Frida. Murray was successful as a portrait taker. He too photographed Frida. They met in 1931 and had a decades-long affair. Frida and Diego romanticized the indigenous culture, the dignity of Tehuantepec women, their pride and their independence. Frida mixed modern dresses with huipil blouses, colonial silver earrings, and indigenous necklaces of jadeite and onyx. Rebosos, the shawls, were a favorite. Frida's wardrobe was carefully crafted to convey cultural identity, nationalism, and feminism. La Casa Azul was Frida's childhood and adulthood home. The house was built by Guillermo, her father. Now as a museum, it opened in 1958. In the 1970s, interest in Frida's work was revived due to the feminist movement. In 1983, Hayden Herrera published the biography Frida, her definitive biography creating more interest. In 2002, the movie Frida was released, nominated for 6 Academy Awards, winning for Best Makeup and Original Score, starring Salma Hayek as Frida and Alfredo Molinas as Diego. This is Casa Azul in Frida's kitchen. This is Casa Azul in Frida's bedroom. Note the skeletons hanging from the canopy bed, and to the right, a large portrait of Diego. This is a view of Frida's studio. Note the natural light. Another view of Frida's studio. Note how meticulously the paintings are arranged. In 1933, after their return to Mexico, Diego bought 2 homes in the San Angel suburb, one for him pink on the left, and one for Frida blue on the right. These homes were connected by an open walkway. Here is another photo of La Casa Azul, an outside view. Frida was born here and spent her later years here. This is another view of the courtyard of Casa Azul with an Aztec pyramid. Another view of La Casa Azul with the kitchen dining area. Here is a photo of Frida with 4 hired domestic workers. Here are some quotes from Frida. I never paint dreams or nightmares. I paint my own reality. Nothing is worth more than laughter. It is strength to laugh and to abandon oneself, to be light. My painting carries with it the message of pain. And it's possible she said this to Diego, I love you more than my own skin. Feet, what do I need you for when I have wings to fly? I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return. Now we will talk about the characteristics of the paintings, the styles that Frida used, and then discuss her self-portraits and what was happening in her life and in history at the same time she was painting them. Frida used naive style and realistic style. The naive style of painting is fully recognized as a separate genre now. The subjects are people, creatures, flowers, plants. The artist is often self-taught, childlike, simple, with bright, unrefined colors, precise detail, flat style, frankness in execution, equal accuracy of details, little attention to shading. Geometry and proportion of figures is often erroneous. There's an emphasis on pattern, and the focus is on animated characters. An American example would be Grandma Moses's Christmas trees, and we'll see that in a minute. Another style she used was realism, also termed naturalism. The subjects are working class people, portraits, nudes, everyday people, and events. There is photographic accuracy, source lighting is used, the objectivity is totally frank and honest. And an example of realism and naturalism is Edouard Manet's The Fifer. Here is an example on the left of Grandma Moses's naive style, Christmas trees. On the right, we have Edouard Manet's style, The Fifer, which is realistic. Two other styles that Frida incorporated in her paintings were Surrealism and Symbolism. In Surrealism, the subjects are nature, dreams, fantasies, the subconscious, but the overall effect is composed, not chaotic. There's great attention to detail, there's a finished impression of total work, the imagery is puzzling and perplexing, outlandish, and meant to jolt the viewer out of their comfort zone. One example is Salvador Dali's A Boiled Egg According to Salvador Dali. The last style that Frida incorporated was symbolism. Subjects are women, heroes, animals, landscapes. The artist's own ideologies are expressed. The emphasis is on emotion, feelings, and ideas. Combined in possible motifs are the following: religious mysticism, erotic, decadent, occult, morbid, dream worlds, melancholy, evil, and death. Nuance and suggestion can be invoked by literary and musical counterparts. Dark nightmarish scenes can be presented. Statuesque figures and haunted landscapes are often depicted. Allegory, not fact, is used. One idea ties events together. Women are often seen as femme fatales in differing degrees. An example is Odilon Redon's Mystical Conversation. To the left is Dali's Surrealism, A Boiled Egg According to Salvador Dali. And to the right is Odilon Redon's version of Mystical Conversation. Frida used both of those styles as well. Now we're going to proceed to Frida's self-portraits. This is a chronology of Frida's notable works. Here is the young Frida at work on a portrait for a patron. Self-portrait in a velvet dress was completed in 1926 as a gift to Alejandro Gomez Arias, her sweetheart, who separated himself from her after her accident by going abroad and often not responding to her entreaties to communicate with her. Work was begun in this portrait in the summer of 1926. It was sent to Alejandro in late September 1926. Portrait of Adriana, Frida's older sister, was done in 1927. Adriana was the only family member to visit Frida in the hospital after her accident. Frida's parents were too traumatized to visit. Portrait of my sister Christina was done in 1928. Christina was a spirited, large-hearted, and alluringly feminine girl. Her husband deserted her after the birth of their son. Christina then moved in with Frida and Diego, and Guillermo, the father, was also living with them. Frida discovered that Diego and Christina were having an affair in 1935 and moved out of their home. At the end of 1935, Frida and Diego had reconciled. Frida forgave her sister, but things would forever be altered between her and Diego. After Frida and Diego were married, Frida painted her self-portrait in August 1929. In 1930, Frida and Diego moved to the United States, living there 4 years. In 1930, Frida became pregnant. Her injuries prevented a normal birth, so an abortion was performed. In this portrait, Frida gives several clues as to the nature of their marriage. And what do you think those clues are? Self-portrait along the border between Mexico and the United States was done in 1932. This year, Frida became pregnant again, but a miscarriage occurred. Painted in Detroit, this portrait was one of 5 paintings she produced in a burst of energy. Some details include Frida's dress, which is a proper upper-middle-class dress, but a lit cigarette is in her hand. The sun and moon together are Mexican Christian symbols. Mexico, her native land, is characterized by natural beauty. the American side by impersonal, brutal-looking machines. My dress hangs here was done in 1933. More homesickness is obvious in this work. Done while Diego was working on the doomed Rockefeller project. Frida uses some of Diego's expansive style. Manhattan is depicted. In the middle is Frida's innocent, fresh Tijuana outfit. Parodied are elements of what Frida called Gringolandia. Sports, plumbing, business, capitalism, materialism, technology are all deftly satirized. Can you identify specifics here? Self-portrait was done in 1933. Frida's pre-Columbian jade necklace is to the right. Actor Edward G. Robinson acquired this painting in 1936. In 1934, Diego's commissions abroad were ended. President Calles was ousted, and the Riveras returned to Mexico. This is when they bought the 2 homes in San Angel. In 1934, Frida was in hospital 3 times for an appendectomy, a therapeutic abortion, and for foot problems that had grown acute in New York. Self-portrait with curly hair was done in 1935, after her discovery of the affair between her sister and her husband. In 1936, Frida finished My Grandparents, My Parents, and Me. Matilda's parents are on the left, Guillermo's parents on the right, and Frida at the base of the painting. Self-portrait was painted in 1937 and was Frida's gift to Leon Trotsky. In this portrait, she is dressed as an upper-middle-class colonial woman, not as a Tijuana. Fu Lang Chuang and I was done in 1937 and reflects the similarity in features between Frida and her monkey. Frida completed 4 paintings in 1937. Self-portrait The Frame was done in 1938. This painting was purchased by the Louvre in Paris, now in the collection of the Musée National d'Art Moderne, Centre Georges Pompidou. In 1939, Frida's work was the main feature of an exhibition called Mexique, arranged by André Breton in Paris at the Pierre Cole Gallery. André Breton said of Frida's art, "The art of Frida Kahlo is a ribbon about a bomb." The 2 Fridas, completed in 1939 after her divorce from Diego, was acquired in 1947 by the Instituto Nacional de Bellas Artes, Mexico City. Exhibited in Mexico City at Inés Amor's Galeria de Arte Mexicano in January 17, 1940. The exhibition, entitled International Exhibition of Surrealism, was not a dramatic phenomenon. What was significant in Europe was not in Mexico, where dreams and miracles are incorporated into everyday life. This painting was almost finished on the day that Frida's divorce papers were done. There is a difference between the 2 Fridas. The Frida on the left is the Frida that Diego loved, and the Frida on the right is who he left. Self-portrait was dedicated to her doctor, Leo Alosa, in 1940. There is a definite change in color and attitude and atmosphere in the painting. Self-portrait with thorn necklace and hummingbird was done in 1940. Completed after her divorce from Diego at the close of her affair with Nicholas Murray. This painting is housed in the Harry Ransom Center of the Nicholas Murray Collection, University of Texas, Austin. Frida sold this painting to Murray. Although Frida rejected Christianity in favor of communism, great attention to the details of suffering and martyrdom are apparent. Can you tell what they are? Self-portrait was commissioned by and dedicated to Sigmund Firestone, a friend. He wanted portraits of both Frida and Diego as memory of their hospitality to him as a visitor. He said the total cost of both paintings would be $500. Frida and Diego were divorced by this time. Self-portrait with cropped hair was done in 1940, and it has Frida depicted in a man's suit. Her determination to be free, especially financially, of Diego shows here. Friends bought her work. Her popularity increased in Mexico, and she held exhibitions in Mexico and the U.S. She was awarded prizes and invited to join committees. Offered a teaching position, she accepted it, not having been schooled in art education, and became an intuitive, popular teacher. In December 1940, she remarried Diego. Self-portrait with a braid was done in 1941. It can symbolize a very telling description of remarriage. There are issues, ominous and disquieting. Me and My Parrots was done in 1941. A far more composed, settled, married-looking Frida is in the picture. In 1941, Frida was asked to paint a series of portraits of Mexican women who distinguished themselves in the history of Mexican Pueblo for the National Palace dining room. In 1942, Frida was elected to be member of the Seminario de Cultura Mexicana, a group promoting Mexican culture. Self-portrait as a Tehuana was done in 1943. In January and February of that year, Frida was a participant in an exhibition of 100 Years of Mexican Portraiture at the Benjamin Franklin Library, an English language institution in Mexico City. In this portrait, Diego is seen depicted on Frida's forehead. Also in 1943, Frida was appointed to the staff of the newly opened School of Painting and Sculpture, where she taught a painting class 12 times a week. She also helped to arrange jury-free exhibitions called Sono Libre 20 de Noviembre to celebrate the Mexican Revolution. Roots was completed in 1943, and it symbolizes Frida's connection with all of life. In 1944, the Benjamin Franklin Library presented a survey, The Child in Mexican Painting, and Frida contributed a now-lost work, The Sun and the Moon. Also, Frida was invited to contribute floral still lifes to the annual Salon de la Flor flower show and to a conference on popular mural painting by the Ministry of Education. Moses was completed in 1945. In September 1946, Frida received a 5,000 peso prize for this painting at the National Exhibition at the Palace of Fine Arts. Finished in 3 months, elements include the birth of the hero, world heroes and villains, female procreation, the life cycle, the sun, center of the universe, Moses is in the middle, tree trunks are a symbol of life and death, and also included is Frida's pantheistic view of an interconnected universe. Can you tell the heroes and the villains on either side of Moses? There are many details. Self-portrait with loose hair was done in 1946. This work sold in May 1991 at Christie's auction for $1,650,000. Self-portrait was completed in 1948. Frida depicts herself in the traditional resplendor, the starched lace headdress worn by women in the Isthmus of the Tehuantepec region of Mexico in the 18th and 19th centuries. Her dentist, Dr. Samuel Fastlick, commissioned this portrait. The money helped to pay her personal expenses. She asked for $2,500 for it. She told the dentist her paintings now sell for $3,000, but he could keep the $500 for his dental services. The Love Embrace of the Universe was done in 1949 and shows the integration of many cultural, personal, and symbolic elements of Frida's life. Frida is seen holding Diego like a baby. Compare that to the first painting that she did of them when they were first married. Can you tell other elements in this painting? Diego and I was done in 1949 and has a tone of desperation about it. Frida was in turmoil over Diego's many affairs. The colors and disposition of her hair and eyes indicate also other possible issues. Self-portrait with the portrait of Dr. Farrell was done in 1951. This painting is extraordinary as it embodies a retablo. Frida is shown painting her doctor. This was painted during her convalescence from a series of bone grafts on her spinal column. Frida is the saved victim. Dr. Farrell is the holy saving icon. Marxism will give help to the sick was done at the end of Frida's life. Done also as a retablo. Frida is in her corset, saved by Karl Marx. The American eagle is strangled. A white dove of peace flows over Frida's head, symbolizing Russia and communism. Frida holds a red book, possibly Das Kapital, by Karl Marx. Other symbols depict pro-Russia communism and anti-America. Fruit of Life was painted in Frida's last days on Earth. Unable to move and worn out by suffering, Frida painted still lifes of fruit around her. This painting has the communist white dove of peace. Self-portrait with Stalin was painted at the very end of her life. It was the last painting before Frida died. She declared her loyalty to Joseph Stalin. Her perception was blurred by all kinds of suffering, and this work becomes indistinct and less well-defined. The next slides are going to be about the impact of Frida's paintings on the fashion industry. Frida's impact on the fashion world has been considerable. And so this is a photo of Theresa May, Great Britain's Theresa May, when she stepped down from her office, and she was photographed wearing a Frida Kahlo bracelet. These are indigenous Tawana ladies in their dress. These are similar to what Frida wore. Here's another Tawana lady with a large headdress, and note the headdress matches the flounce of the skirt. Another Tawana lady with fireworks in the background. In 1939, Elsa Schiaparelli created La Robe Madame Rivera in Frida's honor. The next few slides are Chris Von Asch from 2008. This is his ready-to-wear collection, which included a minimalist approach to Frida's style. In 2009, Tao Kirihara's rendering of Frida's style took this form for the fashion house Comme des Garçons. Notice the red unibrow on the right. In 2010, Alexander McQueen brought this look to the runway, a la Frida, and many people have asked questions about this look. He was focusing on butterflies, evidently. In 2010, Riccardo Ticci did this rendering of Frida for Givenchy in his fall-winter collection. In 2011, Carolina Herrera's spring bridal collection honored Frida. In 2012, Dolce Gabbana summer collection offered this homage to Frida. And note the Sacred Heart motif in the middle of the dress. In 2012, this 1939 photograph of Frida done by Nicholas Murray was on the cover of Vogue magazine. In 2012, Rei Kawakubo's Comme des Garçons collection was called White Drama and did homage to Frida's corsets, depicted in white bands here. In 2012, Jason Wu tweeted and brought back Elsa Schiaparelli's 1939 Robe de Madame Rivera. In 2013, Tom Rebel's spring-summer collection included styles for men. And here we have a male model with one of Frida's floral crowns. In 2013, Maya Hansen's spring-summer collection paid homage to Frida. Note the bright floral cover and Our Lady of Guadalupe in the center, and all the flounces, and the floral crowns, of course. The model here is carrying a Frida cell phone cover. In 2013, Deepak Parwani, a Pakistani designer, gave his interpretation in Frida Kahlo Goes to Karadar. And note the use of Indian fabric. Frida's to Want to Pack dresses are in this display, January 2013 exhibition at La Casa Azul, Mexico City, her home. In 2014, Alberto Ferretti's spring-summer collection paid homage to Frida with florals, flounces, and lots of movement in the dresses. In 2016, Etro's spring-summer collection had this interpretation of Frida. In 2017, Ahmad Amar and Vincenzo Veschidia, founders of AAVA in the United Arab Emirates, created the streetwear, saying that Frida's story, quote-unquote, is a strong message to women. And note the very Middle Eastern tassels on the left. In 2018, San Andreas Milano's spring-summer collection emphasized color and movement. The next few slides are of Dolce & Gabbana. In 2018, Dolce & Gabbana's show Alta Moda was in Mexico. It made use of the Baroque Catholic art, brilliant color, and opulent fabrics. Note the Madonna and Child in the middle of this dress. Again, we have Dolce Gabbana 2018 with the Sacred Heart motif on the skirt. Here are three models. The middle model has the Sacred Heart motif on the top. And it needs to be understood that the designers were not mocking Frida. Many of the designers were devout Catholics, and this was their medium of expressing their respect for Frida Kahlo, the artist. This is Dolce & Gabbana again, 2018. A very opulent gown from Dolce & Gabbana again, with a heavy floral crown. Our Lady of Guadalupe is in the center of this gown, and there are long Baroque earrings and a floral crown. Another floral crown and very fancy fabric. Dolce & Gabbana they love to use opulent fabrics. In 2018, Joanne Fleming, a designer, arranged a shoot in a London conservatory depicting Frida's inspired bridal clothes and arrangements. And here is a bridal arrangement done by Joanne Fleming. In 2018, Payal Jain, a New Delhi-based designer, launched her spring-summer collection, Forbidden Love, in honor of Frida. Note the colorful Indian fabric. In 2018, Salma Hayek appeared at the Victoria and Albert Museum to honor Frida's exhibition, Frida Kahlo Making Herself Up, and she was dressed in her role as Frida from the movie. In 2018, Alice & Company Patterns presented a free dress pattern at the Victoria and Albert Museum to honor the same exhibition, Frida Kahlo Making Herself Up. To the left is a simple dress pattern, and to the right is the huipil blouse and a flounce skirt. In February 2019, the Appearances Can Be Deceiving exhibition of Frida's clothes was held at the Brooklyn Museum, the largest exhibition in the U.S. in 10 years devoted to Frida, and the first to display her personal effects down to her bright red Revlon lipstick. Rediscovered and reinventoried in 2004, after having been locked up since 1954 at Frida's death, these possessions came to see the light of day. Diego Rivera stipulated that their possessions not be disclosed until 15 years after his own death. Here is a Viva la Vida Frida t-shirt advertised on Etsy.com, designed by Stradivarius, a high-street Philippine brand, and distributed by International Specialty Wear. Viva la Vida translates as live life or long live life. And here is another picture of the t-shirt. Walmart is the designer here, and this is a Halloween costume a la Frida. This costume sells for $56.98. These are various personal interpretations of Frida's style, from older people to younger people. A young Mexican girl recaptures her interpretation of Frida here. This is a Tijuana huipil, sold at the Wild Boon Marketplace in New Mexico. To the right is Sally Moon, owner of Wild Moon Boutique, and every year in Albuquerque, New Mexico, there is a Frida Fest. Women dress up like Frida and parade through the streets in her honor. This was the 2014 Fiesta. Here are key elements to Frida Kahlo fashion simplified. The covering to the left is a rebozo, a shawl, and you have the flounce skirts, the short huipil blouse, various necklaces, and the floral crowns. Express.co, and this is the summer 2018, features several designers who have paid homage to Frida. Here are some of their looks. Gallery.com is the site where, from Feroce magazine, this shoot called The Flower of Light took place, October 29, 2018. And this model, of course, boasts the necklaces, the jewelry, and a different type of fabric floral crown. Here are some quotes from Frida to conclude the presentation. I am my own muse. Painting completed my life. I paint self-portraits because I am so often alone, because I am the person I know best. I often have more sympathy for carpenters, shoemakers, etc., than that whole flock of stupid so-called talkers they call cultivated people. They thought I was a surrealist, but I wasn't. I never painted dreams. I painted my own reality. Pain, pleasure, and death are no more than a process for existence. The revolutionary struggle in this process is a doorway open to intelligence. Only one mountain can know the core of another mountain. Nothing is absolute. Everything changes, everything moves, everything revolves, everything flies and goes away. Yes, it's true, I'm here, and I'm just as strange as you. Human, woman, artist, Marxist, political activist, feminist, wife, philosopher, fashionista. This is Frida Kahlo. That's the end.